Welcome back to the Banger Bar, where yes, it's still Halloween. This week's edition of Overkill Reviews, if you couldn't tell from the intro, is Vader. Their new album, The Empire, released today worldwide on Nuclear Blast Records. Vader formed in 1983, released their first album in 92, and have since produced 13 studio albums. Vader are known for their very steady, consistent, brutal death metal output. However, on recent records, they've started to explore with more epic and slightly more symphonic territory. So, let's see how brutal they keep it on The Empire. The first track on the record is called Angels of Steel, and most recent Vader albums have opened with big, dark, ominous, classical intros. On The Empire, they go straight for the goods. From that mid-tempo opener, the band moves into a high-speed thrash metal riff, and we're introduced once again to leader and founder and lead vocalist Peter. And sorry, Peter, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. And once again, he barks from the death metal pulpit. I love how Peter's vocals sit way up on the mix there, and it's one of the reasons why Vader is truly one of my favorite death metal bands. And from there, relative newcomer on the drums, James Stewart, delivers one of the most insane fills on the record. It's a pretty ridiculous fill, courtesy of Mr. Stewart. I was a little bit disappointed that the song didn't move there into something new, something really brutal and epic. It kind of just returned to the main riff. However, once again, Stewart impresses us towards the end of the song. And thus ends Angels of Steel, a pretty straightforward, lean opener from Vader on The Empire. Let's go to the next one. Track 7 on The Empire is called The Army-geddon, and although I'm not really a big fan of that song title, it is my favorite track on the record. And why? Well, Peter opens up with yet another classic death metal call to arms.
Brothers, sisters, now listen to me, just listen to me. I shall lead you to the land of your dreams, to the paradise you have never seen before.
An absolute crushing opening to the Army-geddon there, and frankly, it's a bit of an anomaly on this album. We're not seeing quite as many of those grand, epic moments that we've grown to like from recent albums like Impressions in Blood and Welcome to the Morbid Reich. However, where the song goes next is by far one of the highlights on the record. Now, that moment may not seem like much in isolation, but I think this is what Vader has become very, very good at. Is taking those super slow, chugging death metal riffs and layering it with a blast beat, or vice versa, taking a hyper-fast picker and throwing a mid-tempo drum beat on top. It's these little simple shifts in the dynamics that make Vader one of the best at what they do. They also know how to throw a little break into a death metal grinder.
Join my war and follow orders, my legions, my army, and my fate.
So, Army-geddon for me was a real bright light on a record that so far, I hate to say it, has not shown a lot of the dynamics we've grown to love from these death metal legends. Let's go to the last tune. Next track, and one of the other highlights on The Empire, is Feel My Pain. And it opens with a riff that just has me reaching back for Blessed Are the Sick or The Covenant. So that opening riff there really had me thinking Vincent and Azagtooth and Sandoval, that classic Morbid Angel sound, in a good way though. They know how to pay their homage respectfully. But check out where the song goes next. Does this really work? So that section there is moving from a fairly familiar, very heavy Vader mid-tempo riff into this kind of guitar break. And I think this is what also makes Vader interesting as a death metal band. They've started to introduce these more accessible, dare I say, guitar breaks, but after a few listens, I think it works. And the song goes out on a real grinder. So, as Feel My Pain comes to an end and the Empire draws to a close, we're left with the sense that this is a Vader that's slightly more slender and economical than we've seen on recent records. So, let's go to the verdict and weigh in. This was a hard record to review, and why? Well, I love and respect Vader's music. We put them in the Extreme Metal episode of Metal Evolution for a reason. I've always felt that they deserve to be up there with the greats of death metal. But for me, the Empire felt generally uninspired. There were a lot of good riffs on this album, and there's some great vocal moments from Peter, but a bunch of great riffs and a bunch of great vocal moments don't make a great album. I felt the songwriting was less inspired than on earlier albums, like classics like Litany and Revelations, or more recent ones like Necropolis. And maybe this is a symptom of the fact that Peter has had so many different members of this band in recent years, and he's carrying a lot of creative weight on his shoulders. In terms of the production, I missed some of the more epic productions of recent Vader albums. I really liked that they were going in that direction. So I'm being tough on Vader here because they're a highly talented band, they got a lot of gas in the tank, and they're capable of bettering themselves on future albums. So the Empire gets 2 out of 5 skulls on Overkill Reviews.